Ready when you are, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order the special CRA meeting of September 21st, 2020, and the time is now 4:01, and we will get right into the agenda. Item number 2, resolution number 20-53, approving a property development and lease agreement with Democor Ventures LLC for development of the anchor site. Mr. Rugg.
Good evening or good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. We will be, got a quick presentation here to share with all of you. So give me a moment. Let me get my screen set up. I know also on the call, on the Zoom call, we also have with us the development team that has been working with us. That's Gilbert and Mr. Schiller are also with us. Gilbert, are there? It's just you and Neil, right? I'm not missing anybody else on your team.
No.
Okay, great. So everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So I'm just going to get into obviously just a little bit of orientation about the project, where it's located, a very brief history, because I actually started diving into some of the history, which you know, is a little bit piecemeal, but I'll touch on it a little bit just to kind of give some background to the project, and then I'll get into the nuts and bolts of the actual agreement that we have worked on. And to date, the development team, Umo Corp, has already signed and has sent to the city for our consideration for signature. And then lastly, this was presented to the CRA-Advisory Board, which I'll also discuss what their recommendation is as well. So many of you know where the anchor site is. This is a shot of Northwood Village. So the street to the north, 25th Street, Northwood Road, runs through the center where most of the shops and businesses are located. Going north and south we have Broadway to the west, and Spruce Avenue running through the center of the Northwood Village area. The Center for Creative Education is the large building with the white roof in the top corner, and of course Blum Park is just off of 23rd Street and Spruce in the area. The rainbow flag signifies just where the rainbow crosswalks. I know that has been a topic of discussion, so just so that just for a little bit of timely to show where that's going to be. And then lastly, the anchor site is located at the west end of the area that's on the west end of Northwood Village area, which is an assemblage of parcels that the CRA has gathered over time. So this area is pretty interesting, even though it is called the anchor site. I just want to be clear that we're not talking about anchors in the sense of boats dropping or being parked there. Instead, the site and the property was assembled more as a sense of anchoring Northwood Village as a place that people can sort of start and maybe finish their journeys. It has, you know, a parking component, and it is that sort of anchor of the Northwood Village commercial area where all these businesses are located, and really to sort of continue to evolve the Northwood Village spot into this great destination and commercial part of our city. So the idea is that, you know, residents from all over the north end of the city, starting from, you know, whether they're in Pleasant City or Northwood Village, both starting and ending their journeys at this place, and it really becoming sort of, again, that anchor and that place that people can count on and to know where they start and finish their destinations as they enjoy the Northwood Village and north end of our city. So recently, we did do an appraisal on this property. We had to update it as a part to establish the base lease rate. And the last appraisal that we did, the property came in at $4.3 million, and it is roughly 3.3 acres of land. So the main terms of the agreement are shows. So if the developer continues to lease the property, there is a lease term of 50 years. The project will include 350 residential units, and I'll talk about the percentage of workforce housing here a little bit later. There will be commercial space included as part of the development agreement, 58,000 to be exact. There'll be copious amounts of public space for people to enjoy with a public plaza component. Again, as I mentioned earlier, being sort of this initial hub and anchor of Northwood, we've increased the amount of parking that we'd like to see this project include, so that it provides public parking amenities for folks that want to visit the Northwood area. So we've increased the amount of parking required by zoning by about 10%. So the total amount will be 450 parking spaces. Even though the purchase price, the appraisal came in at 4.3, the purchase price that we included in some of the agreements components is 4 million. That's in the document, and I'll get into that a little bit as it relates to the incentive for finishing the project timely. And that base lease rate, though, is $174,000. That's based on a 4% capitalization rate, and that will increase over time, pegged to the consumer price index. So some of the incentives, the carrots that we've really built into this project is initially the $1 million that is slated for the project to include things like impact fees and things like that. And that's because we really wanted to see that parking component and really see this project get off the ground. And then obviously, as great incentive for them to move with a quickness, the purchase price can be waived at the completion of CO for the project if it meets the deadlines. And that's a pretty big one because we're looking at that $4 million number. And again, that's an incentive to make the project a reality for the north end of the city. So as we start thinking about pre-construction, we wanted to build in some accountability measures so that there isn't too much movement on the project. So prior to planning and zoning, they can't really switch much more than 20% of that concept plan. And I'll talk about the timing of that here in a moment. But as they present the concept plan, once that's approved, they can't change much more than 20% of that concept plan. After they get their planning and zoning approvals, it becomes a little bit more stricter, where in the sense that they can't alter more than 10% of that project. As they move through the phasing of the overall project, evidence of funds need to be shown, and performance bonds need to be included to ensure that if there are any hiccups, that the project can be completed because of the bonds that have been pulled for it. So now thinking about schedule, because, and I shared this with the CRA-Advisory Board just to give some idea of when we can expect things to move as it relates to this project. So assuming the CRA Board approves the agreement today and the mayor signs the agreement beginning October 1, the agreement says that a concept plan needs to be presented to the CRA Board no more than 6 months after the date of that signature. So from an October 1 deadline, that would mean they would have to present April 2021. Assuming that the concept plan is approved, they have 6 months after the concept plan is approved to submit for site plan, and other approvals received 12 months after submittal, which includes things like your building permit and things, all of the necessary documents or permits to build the project. From that point, they have 60 days after they achieve their building permit to clear the site, and then commence construction shortly after they receive that building permit, the 90 days after they receive it. So we're looking at a February 2023 at the latest to commence construction. Following commencement of construction, we're looking at a certificate of occupancy and actually seeing folks move into the building right around February 2025. Some other noteworthy terms based in the agreement. As I mentioned earlier, the rent is based on consumer price index. Now, if they don't exercise that incentive to acquire the land for free, or for some reason the timeline isn't met, they may purchase the property that the CRA owns that the building is built on within that first 10 years for about $30 a square foot, and that's that $4.3 million number. After 10 years, there would have to be an appraisal, and the developer has the option to purchase it at fair market value. Now, going back to the residential units that are included in the project, 10% of those for a period of 5 years have to be priced below market rate for workforce housing purposes. That's firefighters, doctors, nurses, or not doctors, firefighters, nurses, police officers, and folks in the workforce. As I mentioned last Friday, the CRA-Advisory Board did review this agreement. There was unanimous vote in favor of recommending approval of the agreement. Some of the questions that we discussed during the meeting were the buyer's requirement whenever.
You're fading out. I don't know if you changed your mic or something, but.
Is that better, Mayor?
That's much better.
A little bit closer. Okay. So some of the questions that they asked relative to the buyer's requirement is, does that apply whenever somebody does decide to purchase it from Emo Corp, and they do, there does need to be an approval from the CRA board before they can sell the property. Identification of entities, we've identified some LLCs that have interest in the project, but Emo Corp will be the master developer. There was some topic about certain parts of the agreement and how they work together. And then lastly, did the what ifs consider the 30 days to exercise the no cost land incentive? That's just, there was a question about what happens if they do get the land for free, can they go ahead and sell it? And the answer is yes, they can. So with that, that's a very brief summary of the agreement. There are a lot of details in it because it is a lengthy document, but those are the main terms in order to make sure that this project becomes a reality and is a great addition to the Northwood Village area. As I mentioned, the developers are on the call to help us answer any questions, as well as Allison. That was a big part of the negotiations of this team. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chris, for a very fine presentation. Board members, any questions, comments? Questions from Madam President?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much to Chris and CRA staff for moving this forward. We're really excited in District 1 to get this going, knowing that we have a timeline in front of us. My question was, we had talked about the entities and that Emocope would be the primary entity involved in this agreement. I noticed in the agreement there are a couple of Northwood type LLCs that I don't think are established companies yet. Can we talk a little bit about having those in there and what legal ramifications that may have? I just want to make sure, you know, that the terms are enforceable according to the entities and that we know exactly where or to whom this agreement is with.
Commissioner, Mayor?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Did you want me to address that, Mayor?
Yeah, either you or legal. I don't know who is.
So
positioned.
I'm sorry, I'm going through the agreement right now and I'm pulling it up. The three entities that were identified in the agreement, as you mentioned, Commissioner Shove, Northwood, I believe it's 1, 2, and 3, have interest in the project, and we wanted them named primarily so that we know who will be working on the project and have interest in it in case there are some moving components.
Chris, it's page 15, section 5.2.
Oh, thank you, Neil.
Can I jump in for a second and maybe answer Commissioner Schiff's question?
Yes, go ahead.
And Gilbert, please jump in also.
Yes.
So we've established, and they haven't been established quite yet, these certain entities, but we envision, for instance, one of the entities being responsible for phase one of the entities being responsible for phase two, one of the entities being responsible for the commercial section of the development, so that there's some, again, all of these entities have to maintain Gilbert and his partners as ownership, so there's continuous ownership there. But we wanted to break it up so that it's not just one developer doing the whole project. It is one developer doing the whole project. It's just broken up into certain LLCs, and frankly, it's fairly common, especially in a phased development like this, to break it up into certain LLCs. But Gilbert, if I left anything out, please.
Yes, in fact, you're gonna have 350 units that's gonna be due in 2 phases. So each building should have its own entity, even legally. And for the commercial, we cannot have an entity owning the commercial and an entity owning the multifamily. It has to be separated. This is why we did it that way. And for financial purposes, even from a bank point of view, they want to separate. So we may have a different bank institution financing the commercial and another bank financing the multifamily.
Mayor, if I,
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Rube.
no, that was okay. I was just going to say we wanted them identified so that it was clear, the different entities, as much as we could at the beginning of the project in the agreement.
Do you have a follow-up, Madam President? Okay, Board Member Lambert has a question.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. This is very exciting, and happy to see this. And I love how you graphically showed us about it being the anchor to this part of our city. So I think a lot of people are very excited about it. My question relates to the parking incentive. It's a two-part question, and I think Chris, maybe you and staff could talk a little bit about how we came about with the $1 million. And obviously there is a need for parking there, but I just am curious if you could share with us a little bit more of that background. And then the second part is likely for the developer and is more about the operation. I saw in the agreement that they'll be the ones operating it, but I wasn't clear if it was if the public parking was mainly going to be in the garage, or it also mentioned a lot. So just wanted some clarification on that.
Sure. As it relates to the $1 million, it was primarily to include the parking component, and I'll let Allison jump in here with a little more background in the details. But the other portion of the other idea behind the $1 million was that we know that this project is going to generate some significant costs from a regulatory standpoint with impact fees and things like that, and that those costs that that frankly just any project has to cover are additional costs that we could that need to be covered at some point. And we thought that the $1 million would go a long way to help provide some relief to development, again, to increase the likelihood that the project would come to fruition later on down the road. Those $1 million will be paid right around the time of building permit, which is when the impact fees are usually due. Allison, do you have any additional background you want to add?
Yes, thank you. With the parking, we've done several parking studies throughout the year or throughout the years. We do understand that there is, although may not have a parking need immediately in Northwood Village with any kind of development. All we have is on-street parking plus a CRA-owned lot on 23rd Street. We knew that we would need some public parking component. This has been part of the idea from the CRA back, I think, when we started conceiving of the anchor sites many years ago. I still think it's necessary to have some additional parking. And Chris is right, that's why the incentive of the $1 million is to help the developer cover those costs of what that additional parking would be.
Follow up? board member?
Well, just the part to the developer about the operation of parking.
Okay, I just want to make sure you had an answer to that first part.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, your second question? Part to the developer, Neil, you gonna speak to that or?
Sure, yeah, I'll speak to that and Gilbert jump in if you want. So I don't think that we made definite plans on the parking. Those are more obviously site plan related issues that are gonna obviously come before this board, hopefully sooner rather than later. We do anticipate having structured parking. And we recognize just through basic economics that without providing enough parking that is convenient and close, you know, we're not going to get the tenants that we all want in the project. There will be some street parking around, but I think primarily structured parking. But again, this is going to be massaged through the design process, through the site plan development process. And now, I mean, hopefully after this meeting, we're able to meet with you one-on-one. We can talk to you a little bit more about your specific concerns about parking, but absolutely.
Yes,
Great, and,
I'm
oh,
sorry.
yep, go
We
ahead.
have something. So we are discussing, I mean, we really emphasize and we hope that we'll have a supermarket there, and we're thinking of having the if we are able to secure a supermarket, most likely will be on the ground level of the parking above. So it will be a lot of different components, but until we have secure those items, we will come back to you and tell you exactly what it is. And it will be street parking around the property, and that will be, of course, managed and revenue for the city. But we will have parking also, street parking around the property.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have follow-up.
Yes.
And Mr. Stiller, thank you for pointing out that we haven't been able to meet yet, and I do look forward to having those discussions. And while I'm grateful to see, you know, ample parking, I also want to make sure in those meetings that we talk about the bikeability and walkability that we're implementing throughout our city. And I think that it'll be really important here too. So thank you. Looking forward to this.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Board member Nearing.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Realize that there are quite a few or plenty of issues that still need to be worked out. I'm very supportive of this, have been since day one. My main concern, and one of the things that I'm really going to ask that we figure out, not only as we present it to the community, but as we think about the concept plans, is ensuring that we don't wall off that portion of Pleasant City with this project. I don't have the answers for that. I don't know what that looks like, but I think it's really, really important that we have a residential neighborhood that abuts this, and the back of a building and a closed off street, I don't think is a good look long term. So I'm just going to put that on record. And again, I'd love to have more, you know, in-depth conversations about that. But as you develop the concept plans, I'm hoping that I know that we will take that into account.
Thank you so much.
Or your client?
Yes, please. I'll respond. Thank you so much. And that's the exact type of feedback that we're going to look to get from each and every one of you as we move forward in the design process. Excuse me. And yes, so thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Any other questions, board members? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I am very excited to move to approve resolution number 20-53.
Been moved, and is there a second?
Second.
The second also has to be equally excited, so that's a joke. All right, never mind, okay. It has been moved and seconded. Discussion.
All right.
Hearing and seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you call roll, please?
Okay, and I have no comments on this item either, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you.
Mayor James,
Aye.
Commissioner Schoaf,
Yay.
Commissioner Lambert,
Yay.
Commissioner Fox,
Yay.
Commissioner Nearing,
Yay.
Commissioner Paduzzi.
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, very good.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to keep working with you.
Well,
Thank
we're
you
looking forward to the next steps.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may ask a question, I just want to confirm with legal that the cone of silence would be done and we can talk to developers now?
Once your agreement is executed, whatever cone of silence would have been in place would be lifted.
Great, thank you. So
So we'll let you know when it's executed.
All right,
Thank you,
very
Kim.
good.
Thank you.
That's the only item on the agenda, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. See you at the city commission.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.